What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? I'm JC Owens, and this is Rockmyworld, episode 41, The Beehive. Now, if you look to a lot of the older Masonic lodges and things, you will see this image of the beehive carved into the facades of their buildings. You will see them in books and, alchemical papers from, going all the way back to the 18th century. But you'll also find this in, all over the ancient world, going all the way back to, civilizations like ancient Babylon. And we're talking about the first iteration of Babylon. There have been several throughout history that empire just keeps rebuilding itself. Since Nimrod, that's just what it does. People always go back that direction. Babylon was called Babylon because, like, of all the different languages there, that's where we get the word babble. To babble, like, to mumble on incoherently to where people can't understand you. Well, it's kind of what Babylon was like. You go there, you speak one language, people there might speak any number of 100 different languages, right? And it was the biggest metropolis of the time. And ever since then, the beehive has been a symbol for top-down power structures, pyramidal power structures. And it's like you see on the back of the dollar bill or within the Freemasonic Lodge with the pyramid. It represents, a structure where you have a small number of powerful uber elite at the top, the priesthood. Below them are the people who run things like presidents and world leaders. Then below them you have the merchant class, and then below them you have the military class, and, so on and so forth down the ladder, right? And, in the 18th century, Freemasonry adopted this symbol. Like, they adopted it, and they will tell you that it's for charity, self-improvement, fraternity, right? Just like it, their motto, one of their mottos is liberty, fraternity, and equality, right? Well, when they say that, they mostly mean for them in the free sense. Like, the equality part for, the profane is going to be more like they're going to make everyone sit at the bottom. All regular people are going to sit at the bottom and be equally miserable and controlled, basically. The AI hive mind is also part of this. Obviously these AIs that they let us see and use are not like at the same level of capability as the AI that the military has built and is using. Right? The world's governments are all hooking into this big central AI brain that is going to run all of this stuff. Once the time comes, their systems will be locked together using this greater AI system. That's why all these data centers are having to be built. They're going to decentralize the data, like, as far as backing it up on different data centers. That way nobody can just take it down by taking down one data center. They're going to have them scattered all over the world, and even going to try to put them in space to keep us from taking it down. That way nobody can ever take down the hive mind. That's the plan anyway. They want it to where you'd have to hit all of the stations at once to stop it, and even then it might be backed up somewhere you didn't realize, you see. And it all goes back to this beehive symbol that you will see all over the place. Like I said, they will, as per usual, try to explain it away and say, oh, well, it's just about industry and labor, brotherhood and cooperation. Yeah, cooperation, forced cooperation. If you're not one of them willing to go along with all this, then they're going to try and force you to do it. That's the whole point of a lot of the stuff they're doing right now. They want the AI hive mind to act as the queen bee of this system that then guides everyone else. You see, the technocratic agenda has already began. We're well into it now. Like, people are already beginning to integrate themselves with this technology. Like, as the elites at Davos have already said, walking around staring at your phone all the time is it's a form of becoming a cyborg in so many ways. You're already becoming part of the board collective, because now this device not only tracks you and tells them where you're at and what you're doing and what you say, but now it also influences you. Your feed, your social media feed, can influence your behaviors. You'll see that, like, where Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, or Meta, did all these tests, seeing if they could, influence people's behavior by changing their feed, and, surprise, surprise, yes, they can. Yes, they can. And this is, like I said, this is already the beginning. They said it would start with, you being attached to your phone all the time. And then it would go into wearing smart devices on your wrist. And then it would go to smart devices on your face. And then, like smart glasses, for instance. And then from there, it's going to go inside. They want sensors inside your head, inside your body, reading all of your health markers, reading your brain waves, all this kind of stuff. People don't believe me. All you have to do is look at what they've said at Davos. They said it out loud that this is what they want. The world's technocratic elite have decided where they want us to go, and they're bound and determined to take us there, kicking and screaming if need be. They are not going to ask nicely. They're going to manipulate and obfuscate, and even resort to physical force when it really comes down to it. They always do it the same way. At first, it's optional. At first, it's always optional, and then, just like with the COVID nonsense, they will slowly start bringing it in, tightening that noose to where you can't get out of it. Yeah, sure, they didn't say, oh, well, you have to take it, or we'll kill you. But they did say, hey, you better take it, or we're not going to let you go to work. We're not going to let you feed your family. We're not going to let you go to concerts or do anything you like. You see, this is how the manipulation begins. This is how it begins, and this is exactly how they will eventually force everyone to uptake these digital sensors and things. They have made perfectly clear what their intent is. They've talked about releasing ticks to make you allergic to red meat. They have talked about taking over the farmland so they can control the food supply. They have talked about putting these sensors within you to track your health markers and your brainwaves, and they can even read your brainwaves to the point where they can predict what you're going to do. Right? It's gotten that bad. They can do almost anything with this stuff. They have pills that they can make you swallow that will track you and track your health data. They have all manner of technology that's already patented at the U.S. Patent Office and other offices all around the world to pull this off. I've been studying this stuff for 20 years and following it. And, it's right there in black and white, folks. They call it the open conspiracy for a reason. It's because right under your nose is the perfect place to do this kind of stuff. And that is absolutely where we are headed. Like I've said, I have a reading list. If you need to, you need that reading list, just feel free to ask me. I'll be glad to give it to you. I've given it to folks already, up till now. I will still continue to do that at any point going forward. All you gotta do is just ask me in the comments, and I will shoot you the list. Once you start reading those books, you'll see this stuff has been planned for a very, very long time. But we'll leave it there for today. It's kind of warm out here. As always, much love and peace out, folks.